polished gleam of the mahogany conference table reflects my own face, a ghost of a girl I used to be. 18 months ago, that girl signed her life, her family's legacy, away in this very room. Hartwell and Associates. Even the name tastes like ash in my mouth. The air is thick with the cloying scent of Marcus Hartwell's expensive cologne, a fragrance forever burned into my memory, linked with betrayal and the acrid smell of burning wood and poisoned apples. My stomach clenches. It's happening again. The partnership contract sits before me, an innocent sheaf of papers detailing the destruction of Ashwood Orchards, our family's pride for over a century. This time, I'm not that naive girl. This time, I remember the flames, the searing pain, the crushing weight of the barn beam as Marcus watched me die, his silhouette framed by the inferno he created. He'd whispered his motives then, his voice a venomous caress against the roar of the fire. Agricultural terrorism, he'd called it, a convenient disaster to mask his greed for our land. "Mila, are you all right, dear?" Grandma's voice, thin and worried, pulls me back. Her face, etched with the same deep lines of concern I remember from that first fatal signing, hovers in my vision. 18 months, it feels like an eternity and no time at all. Marcus Hartwell leans forward, his smile as smooth and predatory as ever. "Just a standard precaution, Mrs. Ashwood, Mila. These are uncertain times." He gestures towards the contract with a manicured hand. A partnership ensures Ashwood Orchards is protected against unforeseen agricultural disasters, like those unfortunate incidents in neighboring counties. Unfortunate incidents you orchestrated, I think. My fingers tracing the cool, familiar barrel of the pen. The same pen. My God. The universe has a sick sense of humor. He's explaining the generous terms, the ones that will give him majority control, the ones that will bleed us dry before he torches the rest. I remember the blight, a creeping, insidious rot that started in our prize-winning Honeycrisps, spreading like a cancer through the orchard. He'd introduced it, a subtle chemical agent, then played the concerned consultant, offering solutions that only tightened his grip. I remember the planted evidence in my workshop vials of the accelerant, forged purchase orders for chemicals I'd never heard of. The local paper had called me a monster, an eco-terrorist who'd destroyed her own heritage. And then the fire, wiping away the evidence, and me along with it. His words drone on, a sickeningly familiar script. Essential for security. But this time, I see it. The flicker in his eyes when he mentions security, the almost imperceptible tightening of his jaw when Grandma asks a pointed question about land rights. Before, I'd seen concern, a helping hand. Now, I see the intricate dance of a manipulator, every micro-expression a calculated move. His greed is a palpable thing, coiling in the air between us. He slides the pen towards me. "Just sign here, Mila, and we can put all this worry behind us." The old Mila, the one who died in smoke and agony, would have picked it up. Her hand would have trembled, but she would have signed, trusting the charming facade, desperate to save her family's orchard. But I'm not her, not anymore. I set the pen down. The small click echoes in the sudden silence. "This is a big decision, Mr. Hartwell," I say, my voice surprisingly steady. I even manage a small, hesitant smile. "We'll need some time to discuss this as a family." Grandma looks at me, a flicker of surprise in her eyes, quickly masked. Marcus's smile doesn't falter, but a muscle twitches in his cheek. Just for a second. Irritation. He'd expected compliance, the same easy victory as before. "Good." "Of course," he says, his tone a little too smooth. "Take all the time you need." We walk out of Hartwell and Associates, Grandma's arm linked through mine. The air outside feels cleaner, sharper. I've made my first move. I've deviated from the script. This time, Marcus Hartwell won't be the one holding the match. This time, it'll be me. And he'll never see it coming. The weight of my phone in my pocket is a comforting presence now, no longer just a device for calls and texts, but an extension of my memory, my silent weapon. Every visit Marcus makes to a neighboring farm, every consultation meeting he schedules, I'm there, a ghost in the periphery. My past life knowledge is a roadmap to his deceptions. I know which farms he'll target, the ones with aging owners or mounting debts. the ones whose land sits prime for his predatory development schemes. He thinks he's scouting. I know he's salivating. I film his car turning down secluded dirt roads, his brief, intense conversations with worried farmers, the way his gaze lingers on property lines rather than the crops themselves. He's weaving the same web, and I'm meticulously documenting every strand. The charade continues at home. Tonight, it's a family dinner, or what passes for one with the shadow of Marcus Hartwell looming over us. He arrives unannounced, of course, a portfolio tucked under his arm, his expression a carefully crafted mask of concern. "Just happened to be in the area," he says, his voice oozing false sincerity as he accepts Grandma's reluctant invitation to stay. He presents concerning soil samples from our north field, spreading them out on the kitchen table like a morbid prophecy. It's the same field, the same fabricated evidence. I watch Grandma's face, a familiar landscape of worry. Her hands tremble as she examines the discolored dirt. My own stomach churns, but not with fear this time. It's a cold, calculating anger. I note the slight tremor in his own hand as he palms the vial he claims contains blight spores, the way his eyes avoid mine for just a fraction too long. He's a terrible actor once you know what to look for. "This is troubling, Marcus," Grandma says, her voice barely a whisper. "Indeed, Eleanor," he replies, his tone dripping with faux sympathy. "But that's why we're discussing the partnership. To protect against this very thing." He glances at me then, a fleeting, assessing look. I offer him a weak, grateful smile. "Thank you for being so vigilant, Mr. Hartwell." Inside, I'm dissecting his every move, cataloging it, comparing it to the phantom pains of my past. My old workshop, the one where he so cleverly planted the evidence that framed me, becomes my new stage. I recall with chilling clarity the layout of his hidden office at the abandoned Kellerman farm, a dusty, cobweb-strewn place where he stored his arsenal of chemicals and forged the documents that ruined so many. Under the guise of early morning jogs, a new habit I've adopted to mask my surveillance, I stake out the Kellerman place. His black SUV is a frequent visitor just as I remember. I photograph it, the license plate, the shadowy figures unloading mysterious cargo in the pre-dawn gloom. He's using the same playbook, the same base of operations, arrogant, or perhaps just confident that his previous successes make him untouchable. During one of Marcus's check-in visits to our orchard, ostensibly to see how we're faring, in reality to gauge our desperation, I make sure to be in the workshop, tinkering with some new sprayers. "Just experimenting with some new organic pest control methods," I mention casually, loud enough for him to overhear as he walks past with Grandma. I see his step falter, just for a moment. His eyes, when he glances in, are sharp with a predatory interest. He's already cataloging the layout, I know, planning how he'll use this space, my space, to frame me again. Let him. This time, the trap will be of my own making. The local agricultural extension office is a sterile, bureaucratic place, smelling faintly of old paper and fertilizer. I play the part of the concerned young farmer, earnest and a little overwhelmed. "I've been hearing about some unusual blight patterns in the county," I say to Mrs. Henderson, the clerk, a woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "I was wondering if there were any historical records I could look at, just for my own peace of mind, you know." She peers at me over her spectacles. "Not much to see, dear. Farming's a tough business. Always something." "I know, but any patterns? Anything that seemed out of the ordinary?" She thinks for a moment, tapping a pen against a stack of files. "Well," she says finally, her voice dropping conspiratorially, "there was that awful business with the Kellerman family a few years back. Good people. Lost everything almost overnight. Sudden crop failure, they called it. Never really figured out why. Broke old Mr. Kellerman's heart." My breath catches. Kellerman? The name echoes in my mind. The farm he's using as his den. "That's terrible," I manage, feigning sympathy, but inside, a grim satisfaction takes root. The pattern is there, just as I remembered. Marcus isn't just a recent predator. He's been honing his craft for years. And Mrs. Henderson, with her offhand comment, has just handed me another piece of the puzzle, another nail for Marcus Hartwell's coffin. I request copies of any reports related to the Kellerman incident, adding them to my growing database of his victims. The game is truly afoot now, and every move he makes, I'm already there, waiting. Dawn bleeds purple and orange across the horizon when Marcus's familiar black SUV crunches up our gravel driveway. He's early, a harbinger of doom, just as he was in the timeline that ended my life. He strides towards the farmhouse, a grim set to his jaw, clutching a handful of soil sample bags. "Eleanor? Mila?" His voice is urgent, laced with that carefully cultivated concern. "I'm afraid I have some bad news." He spreads the samples on the worn oak of our kitchen table, the same table where generations of Ashwoods have shared meals and dreams. "It's the South Field," he says, his gaze flicking between me and Grandma. "Early signs of blight, quite aggressive, I'm afraid." He holds up one of the bags, the soil within suspiciously dark and clumped. Theatrics. He was always good at those, but this time, I'm not the audience. I'm the director. For weeks, I've been playing a shell game with our soil. Every sample I've taken for my organic pest control experiments has been meticulously labeled, then subtly switched. The samples from our healthy fields are tucked away safely. The ones I've left in easily accessible spots, the ones I knew he'd target for his fabricated evidence, they came directly from the contaminated storage containers at his own Kellerman farm hideout. The infected dirt he's dramatically presenting as ours is, in fact, a taste of his own poison. I feign devastation, my hand flying to my mouth. "Oh no, the South Field, that's our best gala crop." My voice trembles, a perfect imitation of the terror I once felt. Grandma, bless her unsuspecting heart, looks truly stricken. This is catastrophic," she whispers, her eyes wide with dismay. "Indeed," Marcus says, his expression somber. He's enjoying this, the power he wields, the fear he inspires. "We need to act quickly." "Then we must!" I exclaim, injecting a note of frantic hope into my voice. "We need to call Mr. Davies, the county agricultural inspector, immediately. He'll know what to do." The request hangs in the air. I watch Marcus's face. His practiced mask of concern flickers. Just for a heartbeat, raw panic flashes in his eyes before he schools his features back into a semblance of calm. He can't refuse. Not without looking suspicious. He'd planned to control the narrative, to bring in his own experts, who would, of course, confirm his dire diagnosis and recommend his costly orchard-seizing solutions. An independent inspector, and Davies no less, known for his meticulousness, was not part of his script. "Well, yes, of course," he stammers, the smoothness gone from his voice. "Though perhaps we should assess the situation further ourselves first?" "Nonsense, Marcus," Grandma interjects, her worry making her firm. "Mila's right. We need official guidance. The sooner the better." I internally savor his discomfort, the subtle sheen of sweat on his brow. He's trapped. He's brought the evidence, claimed it's from our land. Now he has to let it be tested. The inspection is a masterclass in feigned distress on my part. I wring my hands, my voice cracking as I explain to Inspector Davies my fears for our beloved orchard. Grandma is genuinely upset, which only adds to the authenticity of the scene. Marcus hovers in the background, trying to look supportive, but his eyes dart nervously towards the soil samples Davies is carefully bagging and labeling. Inspector Davies is a man of few words but sharp eyes. He examines the samples from the South Field, the ones Marcus provided, with a focused intensity. Then he takes his own samples from various points in the South Field and, at my suggestion, from the North Field too for comparison. Marcus's attempts to steer the conversation, to offer his insights, are politely but firmly rebuffed. The preliminary on-site tests are inconclusive, but Davies takes everything back to the county lab. The wait is agonizing for Grandma. For Marcus, I imagine it's pure torture. For me, it's the delicious thrum of a perfectly laid trap about to spring. 2 days later, Inspector Davies returns. His face is grim. Marcus, who insisted on being present, attempts a look of shared concern. "Well, Mr. Davies?" Marcus prompts, a little too eagerly. "Is it as bad as we feared?" Davies doesn't look at Marcus. He addresses Grandma and me. "The samples Mr. Hartwell provided, purportedly from your South Field, show extremely high concentrations of a synthetic blight compound, a particularly nasty one, not something that occurs naturally." Grandma gasps. Marcus nods gravely. "Just as I suspected. This is why my partnership proposal is so crucial, Eleanor, to combat these aggressive, unnatural threats. Indeed, Davies continues, his gaze finally settling on Marcus, cold and hard. What's more puzzling, Mr. Hartwell, is that the chemical signature of this compound and several other trace elements found in your samples are an exact match to contaminants we found on the old Kellerman property some years ago. And curiously enough, they also match contaminants found in several other suspicious crop failures in this county and the next. The color drains from Marcus's face. Kellerman? I don't understand. Cross-contamination, perhaps? From my equipment? I do consult on many farms. His voice is weak, his usual confidence deserting him. Perhaps, Davies says, his voice like chipped ice. But it's a remarkable coincidence, wouldn't you agree? Especially since we also found traces of these same compounds, Mr. Hartwell, on the soles of the boots you're currently wearing, which you stated you wore while taking those samples from the Ashwood South Field. Our own samples from the Ashwood Fields, by the way, show no signs of this synthetic blight. None at all. Silence, thick, suffocating silence. Marcus stares at Davies, his mouth slightly agape. His carefully constructed world is imploding. The hunter has become the hunted, caught in his own snare. Mr. Hartwell, Davies says, his voice formal now, I'll need you to come down to the station to answer some further questions regarding your access to certain agricultural chemicals and your presence on various properties that have suffered unexplained crop damage. The local news, always hungry for a scandal in our quiet county, picks up the story with relish. Prominent agricultural consultant under investigation for potential fraud and contamination. His face, looking pale and shaken, is plastered across the front page of the Willow Creek Gazette. I watch from our kitchen window as Marcus's black SUV speeds away from our farm after Davies' departure, his face ashen, his eyes wide with a dawning, horrified realization. He knows. He knows he's been played. Later that week, I sit in the Willow Creek Diner, the heart of local gossip. The whispers are everywhere. Marcus Hartwell, the savior of struggling farms, might actually be their destroyer. 3 major land development deals he had pending have been abruptly canceled, his credibility shot. Investors are pulling out, his empire is crumbling. I order the apple pie, the same kind I couldn't finish on the morning of my death, my stomach too twisted with anxiety. This time, I savor every bite, the sweet apples, the flaky crust. The taste of justice is sweeter than any fruit Ashwood Orchards has ever grown. Marcus thought he was so clever, so untouchable. He underestimated the quiet, grieving farm girl. He underestimated the power of a memory that refused to die. This is just the first taste of his reckoning, and I'm just getting started. Marcus is a cornered animal now, and cornered animals are predictable. Desperate. He tries to salvage his imploding scheme with a move straight from his old playbook, planting evidence directly in my workshop. It's Grandma's market day in town, a Saturday, the exact same day he chose for his frame-up in my past life. He thinks I'm preoccupied, that the farm is empty. He doesn't know that my organic pest control experiments have included the installation of several discrete, motion-activated cameras, their lenses focused on every corner of the workshop. And he certainly doesn't know that the new soil nutrient compounds I've left conveniently on my workbench are, in fact, more samples painstakingly collected from his toxic stash at the Kellerman farm, each baggie subtly dusted with a fluorescent powder visible only under UV light and guaranteed to transfer to his hands and clothing. The ping on my phone alerts me to motion in the workshop just as I'm helping Grandma load the last of the cider crates. I feign a forgotten task and slip away. The live feed on my phone shows him, a shadowy figure slipping through the side door, clutching a familiar-looking satchel. My heart hammers, not with fear, but with a grim, vindictive satisfaction. He's walking right into it. An hour later, Sheriff Morrison's cruiser pulls up to the farmhouse. He looks uncomfortable, a man doing a job he clearly dislikes. Mila, Mrs. Ashwood, I'm sorry to bother you. We've had an anonymous tip about undeclared agricultural chemicals being stored on your property. I have a warrant to search the workshop. Marcus's anonymous tip, no doubt. The same tactic. Grandma looks aghast. I, however, affect a look of confused cooperation. Of course, Sheriff, we have nothing to hide. I lead him towards the workshop, my mind racing, replaying the camera footage I'd already reviewed. Perfect. The planted evidence is exactly where Marcus left it, a small locked case tucked beneath a pile of tarpaulins. Sheriff Morrison opens it to reveal several vials of concentrated Blight accelerant and neatly forged shipping invoices addressed to a shell company I know Marcus uses. Mila, Sheriff Morrison says, his voice stern, can you explain this? I've never seen that case or those vials before in my life, Sheriff, I say, my voice clear and steady. But I think I might know how they got there. I gesture towards one of the hidden cameras. I installed these last month after some tools went missing. They record everything. The sheriff's eyebrows shoot up. We watch the footage together in the dim light of the workshop. Marcus, caught red-handed, his face clearly visible as he breaks in, plants the case, and even glances around furtively before slipping out. His arrogance is his undoing. But the true beauty of it, the part that makes my vengeance sing, comes when the lab results from the planted evidence arrive. Not only are Marcus's fingerprints all over the case and vials, but the chemical compounds within are an exact match to those exclusively supplied to Hartwell Development by a specific chemical manufacturer. Furthermore, traces of the fluorescent powder from my nutrient compounds are found on the planted evidence and later on clothing seized from Marcus's home. It's an airtight case of breaking and entering and attempting to frame me. His own tools turned against him. The unraveling accelerates. Just days later, a sleek sedan I don't recognize pulls into our driveway. A woman emerges, her face familiar in a way that makes my breath catch. Janet Kellerman, her family's farm, the one Marcus used as his dumping ground and operational hub, the one whose tragic end Mrs. Henderson at the extension office had lamented. Her expression is a mixture of grief and steely determination. Mila Ashwood? She asks, her voice surprisingly strong. Yes, I say, steeling myself. I hadn't anticipated her direct involvement, though I'd anonymously fed her information about Marcus's activities on her family's land. My name is Janet Kellerman, she says, her eyes boring into mine. I believe we have a common enemy. I've been cooperating with state investigators for several months now, providing them with information about Marcus Hartwell's activities, his agricultural fraud scheme. I feign shock, a gasp escaping my lips. State investigators? Fraud? Inside, a cold wave of triumph washes over me. My anonymous tips, the carefully leaked documents about his storage facility and chemical suppliers, had found their mark. Janet, fueled by her own family's ruin, had become an unexpected but powerful ally. She explains how Marcus had approached her father years ago with a similar partnership offer, how their prize-winning orchards had mysteriously failed shortly after, and how Hartwell Development had swept in to buy the land for a pittance. Her story mirrors ours, mirrors so many others. Marcus is desperate now, his carefully constructed empire of deceit and intimidation crumbling around him. His legal team is in disarray, his investors have vanished, and the state is building an ironclad case. He makes one last desperate move. He comes for me. It's late. A storm is brewing, the wind howling around the eaves of the old barn, the same barn where he'd watched me burn. I'm there, ostensibly checking on a loose shutter, but I'm expecting him. I can almost feel his rage, his terror, vibrating in the air. He appears in the doorway, a silhouette against the bruised twilight, the familiar glint of a gasoline canister in his hand. His face is a mask of fury and disbelief. You, he snarls, his voice raw. You did this. That hick sheriff, those fabricated lab reports, that Kellerman woman spouting lies, you set me up. Set you up, Marcus? I ask, my voice calm, eerily so. Or did I just let you walk into your own traps? You were always so confident, so sure of your own brilliance. I'm wearing a wire. State police are positioned discreetly around the property, listening to every word. This is his final act, his confession. I should have made sure you were dead. He spits, advancing on me, the gasoline sloshing in the can. I built an empire. I was respected. And you, a naive little farm girl, you think you can destroy me? You destroyed yourself, Marcus, I say, standing my ground, in the exact spot where my life had ended. You destroyed the Kellermans, the Jacksons, the Millers. How many families did you ruin with your blight and your lies? How many lives did you poison for a plot of land? I list the names. The farms I know he targeted, details only the true perpetrator or his victim returned could possibly know. His eyes widen. The gasoline canister trembles in his grip. He's starting to understand the dawning horror of it. He lunges, not at me, but towards a stack of dry hay, intending to set it ablaze, to destroy the evidence, to perhaps try and silence me again. But this time, the shadows move. The state police emerge, guns drawn. "Freeze, Hartwell! Drop the canister!" He whirls around, his face a rictus of stunned betrayal. He looks at me, standing there calmly amidst the chaos, and in his eyes I see the reflection of my own horrified disbelief from 18 months ago. The tables have turned completely. As they handcuff him, as he's led away, ranting about conspiracies and setups, his final, uncomprehending gaze meets mine. He still doesn't truly understand. He sees the farm girl. He doesn't see the ghost who came back to collect. The courtroom is packed for Marcus Hartwell's arraignment. Whispers ripple through the gallery like a disturbed hive. He stands before the judge, a shadow of his former self, his expensive suit rumpled, his confident smirk replaced by a haggard pallor. I sit in the public benches, a small, unassuming figure next to Grandma. No one pays me much mind, just another peripheral victim in the grand drama of Marcus Hartwell's downfall. They have no idea. The prosecutor, a sharp-witted woman named Miss Chen, begins to lay out the state's case. She details the agricultural fraud, the chemical contamination, the systematic destruction of family farms across 3 counties. Then she drops the first bombshell. "Your Honor," Miss Chen announces, her voice ringing with authority, "much of the crucial evidence in this complex case, the evidence that allowed us to connect Mr. Hartwell's disparate crimes into a cohesive pattern of agricultural terrorism, was brought to our attention by an anonymous benefactor. A benefactor who has been quietly funding independent investigations into agricultural fraud for nearly 2 years." A murmur sweeps the courtroom. Marcus's head snaps up, his eyes scanning the gallery, searching for this mysterious figure. Miss Chen continues. "This benefactor, driven by a profound sense of justice, utilized a significant inheritance, funds derived from a life insurance policy. A policy taken out on a young woman presumed deceased 18 months ago in a tragic barn fire at Ashwood Orchards, a woman named Mila Ashwood." The courtroom erupts. Gasps, shocked exclamations. All eyes turn to me. I meet their stares, my expression calm, unreadable. Grandma's hand tightens on mine, her knuckles white. She knew some of it, not all. Not the extent of my intricate dance with death and rebirth. "Furthermore," Miss Chen's voice cuts through the din, "this deceased Mila Ashwood, equipped with an uncanny, almost preternatural knowledge of Mr. Hartwell's methods, his hidden locations, his network of suppliers, information he never disclosed to anyone, has been working undercover with state agricultural crime units for the past year. Her insider knowledge, her ability to anticipate his moves, proved invaluable in building the comprehensive case before you today." Marcus stares at me now, his jaw slack, his eyes wide with a dawning, horrified comprehension that transcends mere guilt. He's not just looking at a victim, he's looking at a ghost, a meticulously crafted illusion that has systematically dismantled his life. His defense attorney, a slick character named Henderson, no relation to the kind Mrs. Henderson at the extension office, I'm sure, looks utterly poleaxed. He realizes his client hasn't just been outmaneuvered. He's been hunted by someone who seemingly defies logic, someone with impossible knowledge. The whispers in the courtroom shift from shock to awe, a hint of fear. How could she know? Later, in a private meeting in Miss Chen's office, the final pieces of my strategy are laid bare. "The Kellerman farm," I explain, my voice even. "I purchased it 6 months ago through a shell company registered to a name that doesn't exist, funded by the insurance payout from Mila Ashwood's death. I knew from my past association that Marcus was careless with his records there." I slide a ledger across the polished desk. He kept meticulous notes, everything. His plans for Ashwood Orchards, detailed projections for the luxury housing development he intended to build, a timeline of his acquisitions, even a list of potential future targets. His own handwriting, his own damning evidence. Miss Chen flips through the ledger, her expression grimly satisfied. This is extraordinary, Miss Ashwood, or whatever name you prefer to use now. Mila is fine, I say. It's who I am. It's who he tried to erase. The news breaks like a dam. Headlines scream about the Orchard Avenger, the ghost of Ashwood, the woman who brought down a multi-million-dollar land grab scheme. My face, the one Marcus thought he'd consign to ashes, is suddenly everywhere. The story is sensational, bordering on the unbelievable. A young woman, presumed dead, returns to dismantle the empire of the man who tried to kill her, using his own methods, his own arrogance against him. As I sit in the courthouse cafeteria, a cup of lukewarm coffee in my hands, I see him, Marcus in shackles, being escorted down the hallway by 2 deputies. He glances through the glass panel of the cafeteria door. Our eyes lock. There's no anger in his gaze now, no bluster, no denial. Only a hollow, chilling understanding. He finally sees me. Not the naive farm girl, not the grieving granddaughter. He sees the architect of his ruin, the woman who walked out of her own grave to ensure he paid for his sins. He sees the impossible, and he knows, with a certainty that will haunt him for the rest of his days, that he was beaten by a ghost he created. The county jail's visiting room is a symphony of muted despair. The scrape of plastic chairs, the low hum of forced conversations, the clink of handcuffs. Marcus sits opposite me, separated by a thick panel of reinforced glass, the expensive cut of his suit now looking like a costume on a broken mannequin. His lawyer, Henderson, hovers beside him, occasionally whispering advice that Marcus seems too shattered to absorb. Mila, he begins, his voice raspy, unfamiliar without its usual confident timbre. He presses his palm against the glass, a desperate, futile gesture. You have to believe me. I never wanted to hurt anyone. Not really. The orchard, I just wanted to help your family. Protect it. Before real criminals, more ruthless people could target it. The words are a pathetic echo of the manipulations he'd spun so effortlessly before. Now they sound hollow, rehearsed by a lawyer who knows his client is drowning. His eyes, bloodshot and pleading, search mine for any flicker of a weakness he can exploit. I was trying to build something, Mila, he continues, his voice gaining a desperate edge. Something lasting. Things just got out of hand. If you could just testify on my behalf, explain that it was all a misunderstanding, a series of unfortunate errors in judgment. He leans closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that barely carries through the intercom. My remaining assets, they're not insignificant. I could ensure your family is, comfortable. Very comfortable. A gesture of goodwill for the distress caused. I listen, my expression unreadable. I let him spin his tale of woe, his desperate attempts to rewrite history, to paint himself as a misguided benefactor rather than a calculating predator. When he finally falls silent, exhausted by his own lies, I pick up the receiver. My voice is calm, the same measured tone I used when discussing soil samples with Inspector Davies, when I detailed Marcus's crimes to Miss Chen. You burned me alive in our family's barn, Marcus, I say, each word a carefully placed stone on the grave of his hopes. You stood there and watched me die, believing I'd never see justice, that my memory would be nothing but ash. A flicker of his old arrogance, or perhaps just raw fear, flashes in his eyes. That was an accident. A terrible, tragic accident. I tried to save you. No, Marcus, I reply, my voice unwavering. It wasn't an accident. It was a choice. Your choice. And here's the difference between us. I don't need your forgiveness or anyone else's to live with what I've done to bring you here. I sleep soundly. I place the receiver back in its cradle. My refusal is as final as the cold steel of the bars that now define his world, as final as the gavel that once sealed my own death warrant in a life he thought he'd erased. His face crumples, the last vestiges of his composure shattering. The sentencing hearing is a somber affair. One by one, representatives from 5 families whose farms Marcus systematically destroyed stand to give their victim impact statements. Their voices tremble with grief and anger as they recount lost livelihoods, shattered dreams, the insidious creep of his blight that stole not just their crops, but their heritage. Old Man Hemlock, whose family had farmed their land for 5 generations before Marcus's consultation led to its ruin, weeps openly as he describes the day the auctioneer's hammer fell. Janet Kellerman speaks with a quiet, burning fury of her father's broken health and early death, a direct consequence of losing their farm. When it's my turn, I don't speak of the fire, of the searing pain, of my own stolen life. I speak of Grandma. I describe her tears, the way her hands, gnarled from a lifetime of working the earth, trembled as she looked out over the orchard she thought was doomed. I speak of the legacy she feared was lost, the heritage of Ashwood orchards turning to dust. As I speak, I watch Marcus. He doesn't flinch at the litany of his financial crimes, at the accusations of fraud. But when I describe Grandma's quiet sorrow, his face, for the first time, seems to truly crumple. He sees not a corporation, not a plot of land, but the real human cost of his greed. The depth of the pain he inflicted, beyond the flames, beyond my own singular death. The judge, a stern woman with eyes that miss nothing, listens to every word. Her sentence is swift and unequivocal. 15 years for agricultural fraud, arson, attempted murder, and conspiracy. His business licenses are permanently revoked. His assets, the ones he so desperately offered as a bribe, are to be liquidated, every last cent going to compensate the victims he created. His empire is officially dead. As he's led away, his final look towards me contains no anger, no defiance, only the hollow, empty recognition of a man who flew too close to the sun and was burned by a ghost. He underestimated someone who came back from the dead, not for revenge, but for a reckoning. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarm, microphones thrust in my face. Miss Ashwood, how does it feel? What's next for the Orchard Avenger? Can you comment on your extraordinary undercover work? I offer them a small, enigmatic smile. Sometimes, I say, my voice carrying clearly over the clamor, the trees know their enemies better than anyone expects. And then I turn and walk away, leaving them to their headlines. Marcus Hartwell's name will fade into infamy, a cautionary tale whispered in agricultural circles. His empire of stolen orchards will revert to its rightful owners, the land slowly healing from his poison. Justice, like a well-tended orchard, takes time, but its fruit is undeniably sweet. 2 years. It's a blink in the lifespan of an apple tree, but an eternity measured in healing and growth. Ashwood Orchards is thriving, vibrant green leaves rustling in the gentle breeze, the scent of blossoms in spring, a sweet perfume that has finally chased away the lingering phantoms of smoke and fear. Tonight the air is crisp with autumn, and the scent of ripe apples is heavy and reassuring. We're at the annual State Agricultural Gala, and the name Ashwood Orchards has just been announced. Winners of the prestigious Golden Apple Award. Not for the size of our yield, but for our innovations in organic pest management techniques I painstakingly developed, blending Grandma's generations-old wisdom with modern research, and a few hard-won insights from a life I wasn't supposed to remember. Grandma beams beside me, her eyes sparkling brighter than the chandeliers overhead. Her hand, steady and strong again, clasps mine as I accept the award. Our family legacy, once threatened with extinction, is more robust than ever, its roots deepened by the ordeal, its branches reaching for a brighter future. The Kellerman farm, once Marcus's den of deceit, has undergone its own rebirth. Using the last of the mysterious benefactor funds, my other self's carefully managed insurance payout, I transformed it. It's now the Kellerman Ashwood Center for Sustainable Agriculture, a research and training facility dedicated to helping small farms flourish. It's staffed by young, eager agriculturalists and some of the very families whose land was restored after Marcus's conviction. They're learning to protect themselves, to innovate, to build resilient farming practices. Janet Kellerman is the director, her quiet fury now channeled into a fierce dedication to helping others avoid her family's fate. Local newspapers still occasionally mention Marcus Hartwell, a small footnote in articles about ongoing agricultural reforms or prison overcrowding. His name is a whisper, his significance diminished to a cautionary tale in the county records, a stark reminder of greed's ultimate barrenness. I stand in our barn, The old fire-scarred timbers were salvaged, reinforced, and now form the rustic heart of our state-of-the-art cider production facility. The air smells of pressed apples and cinnamon, a comforting, wholesome aroma that has completely exorcised the ghost of gasoline. It's Grandma's birthday. She's 82 today, her laughter echoing off the new stainless steel vats as she recounts a story to a group of visiting schoolchildren. I raise a glass of our award-winning Phoenix Blend cider, a name I chose for reasons only I truly understand. The sweet, complex taste holds no bitterness from the past, only the quiet satisfaction of justice served, of a future reclaimed and rebuilt on a foundation of truth, not ashes. Later, as the golden autumn light filters through the lovingly restored orchard, the same orchard Marcus once sought to poison and pave over, I watch Grandma. She's kneeling in the soft earth, showing a wide-eyed little girl how to check an apple for ripeness. Their laughter, light and carefree, dances on the breeze, filling the spaces where screams and accusations once echoed. Near the entrance to the orchard, there's a simple stone plaque we installed last spring. It reads, "In memory of all victims of agricultural crime and in honor of the resilience of the farming spirit." My own name, Mila Ashwood, is technically among those victims, a silent testament to a life nearly lost and a battle hard won. Victim and victor intertwined. The final scene of my day, of this chapter, unfolds in the quiet of the farmhouse office. The Ashwood Agricultural Scholarship applications are spread across the old oak desk. It's another initiative funded by my phantom benefactor, designed to help young, aspiring farmers get their start, to equip them with the knowledge and resources to protect their land from predatory developers and the subtle poisons of greed. I pick up the pen, the very same one Marcus Hartwell once tried to force into my hand to sign away our future. Its weight feels different now, balanced, purposeful. With a steady hand, I sign each approval letter. This pen, once a tool of destruction in his grasp, now writes hope in mine. It ensures that no other family will have to face, alone and unprepared, what the Ashwoods survived not once, but twice. The cycle is broken. A new season has begun.